Brody. Welcome in. Nice seeing you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. So, I do want to cut like straight to a point that I've heard a lot of people on iRacing are very confused with, and I want to ask you directly: how the hell do you pronounce your last name?
Disher. I know. I know what you're thinking. I know what people say, but yeah, it's Disher.
How many times have you had to tell people like, "This is my last name. Say the shit correctly"? Like,
Every single time, but you know how people are. It is what it is.
yeah, that's
But
fair enough. Even talking to Brent was like, I don't really know how to actually say it, but it it was very confusing to me when I first met you because I heard a lot of people call you Duescher. I've heard a lot of people call you
yeah.
Disher. I've heard, I mean, everything under the sun,
Right.
and I can't imagine. I mean, that with how the spelling is, how that was in school. I don't know if you actually go to public schools or
Honestly,
not.
so I'm homeschooled now, but my whole life I've been in public school,
Yeah,
and honestly, it was not like I I didn't notice it at all. Like I don't think people in school cared at all.
really.
It never would bring that up. No,
Oh,
never.
interesting.
And iRacing came around, and it's like, no, that's
Everyone.
all that people can say. Yeah,
I think it's because they actually get to see your name like on the
right.
screen, so they kind of just want to target you. I feel like a lot of people on iRacing are a little rude with that, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
bro,
game. It happens.
well, Brody, for the people that don't know, how old are you? What do you do? Like, what brings you here?
Well, I'm 17 years old. And I race off-road in real life. I race short course. And I got iRacing specifically because I saw videos of, Pro fours, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And now here I am.
What do you race in short course, and what all series, I guess you can say, are you a part of?
Well, I run Amsoil Championship Off-Road, which is the national short course tour right now, and I race a side by side. I race in Sportsman side by side. Uh, and we just recently went to Georgia for their series, and I also sometimes race in Iota Off-Road Series, which is in Wisconsin. But we kind of jump around. Our main series is Champ.
How exactly did you even get into Champ-Offroad, or I guess I could say side by side as a whole? Is this like your open door to the whole racing world, or did you start at a lot younger of an age?
Well, I've been racing this or that since I was like 4 years old. Started in go-karts. Um, uh, Off-road didn't come to me until I was, I don't know, 14, 15. And we went and watched Anago for Champ when they ran at Anago. And so me and my dad we were just looking around after. We were like looking what the prices are and like how people do it, like the rule book, everything and whatnot. And then not much longer after that, we ended up with a Polaris XP1000, and um, now here we are running in the biggest off-road tour there is right now.
That's honestly, that is crazy. I mean, a lot of people do start at a lot younger of an age, which for you it goes to show. But this sportsman class, especially in Champ-Offroad, has been bringing in a lot of drivers that have never even seen the sport of racing as a whole. So it's nice that you actually came into this with a little bit of experience instead of just being some random weekend warrior that wants to hit everyone.
Right? Yeah, I know what you mean there, but yeah, I honestly never would have expected to have short course be, my passion and what I love to do and what I do get to do.
Do you have a lot of like future goals? Like, what's your plan when it comes to racing? Are you wanting to stick with off-road, or are you wanting to adventure into other things?
Well, mainly I would like to stick to short course. I would, I mean, if I get the opportunity to race something on dirt oval, I mean, yeah, I'd be all in for that because I really would like to be able to drive a sprint car or something of that sort if I ever got the opportunity to. But I think overall, I would just really want to stay in short course, and I don't want to give that up, and I want to end up obviously in the professional level of it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, at this point, I would say that you're at a professional level of it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
argue that. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, but obviously just like the truck classes is basically what I'm in the future possibly thinking about. But I love side by side racing, so we'll see what the future brings.
I can't blame you there. You know, it is cool though to have the opportunity to race at tracks like this. Like Crandon has been around for I think 53 years now, and it used to just be like a point to point race back when they were bringing everything together, and it eventually has turned into one of the biggest races in the world. And
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you look at the history of this place, uh, what it started out as and what it is now. It's pretty insane.
so I I'm curious, how exactly did you actually get into racing? I know that you said that you started at a young age, but for some people it's something that they just wanted to try on their own, and for other people it's kind of like a family thing, like where families will push their kids or something into something that they're unfamiliar with. How did that all go for you?
Well, my sister and my dad, they were racing when I was really young, go-karts. And so I've always been hanging out at the racetrack. We went to stock car races locally and this or that. But yeah, they both raced go-karts when I was really young, and then my dad got me into it, and I've loved it ever since.
uh, I wish I had the opportunity to start off like you did. um
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty lucky to be able to do the things that I do.
yeah, how does that when you were in public school, did the whole racing thing kind of give you that, like, I guess, popular status, or was it kind of just like something that you hid from everyone?
I wouldn't say I hit it. It's one of the things like, public school that's full of, they kids that they play football, basketball, baseball, all those sports, and nobody really ever looks at racing and like in the public schools scene. And so I wouldn't say I hit it, but it definitely didn't make me popular by any means.
I, so then I guess what was the key factor there that made you or your parents or whatever it was decide to do private?
Well, actually, we moved, and when we moved, moved. We were in the middle of nowhere, which is where we live now, and we actually did not know there was a public school, and so we started homeschooling right before we moved, just to kind of start doing it because we obviously didn't even think that there was a school near. So, we were starting that just to, get a head start, and moved up here, saw that there's a public school, but I've loved homeschooling since I started it, and my mom does not mind it at all. Like it's not hard for her to do it all, and it makes my life easier and makes her life easier, and it gives me more opportunity to do more things as well outside of school.
Yeah, I was gonna say private schooling definitely had to have helped you a lot, especially with you pursuing your racing career. I mean, last week you said that you left on a Monday to go all the way down to Georgia just to go to a race. Speaking of that race, how did you do in that?
Well, we got down there on whatever Wednesday, I think. So we got to just settle in. And practice day Thursday was very interesting. Um, so I went out for my first session, and um, my my left front axle blew out and destroyed my left front A arm. And so
Boy.
I pulled off and was done for practice day. And we worked until like 9 o'clock at night and fixed it, and went back out to qualify in the morning, and the same axle popped out. And so I was in two-wheel drive for qualifying, and so I pulled off, didn't want to, wreck anything, and it didn't really pay for me to qualify, being that I'm only in two-wheel drive. So, um, that happened, and we got it fixed. I obviously ended up having to start in the back. We could not figure out our issue, so we fixed the car and decided that we'll just go with three-wheel drive. I've never driven three-wheel drive in my life, and we did it because, I mean, we went this far. We're not just gonna pack up and not race. Started ninth, which is dead last in the first in stock, and um, by halfway I was third, and I was already shocked to be in third. And second half came around, I got a really good start, and I took the lead with 3 to go, and I never looked back, and then I won that first one. And then I raced a mod class, which I don't have a mod car by any means. I have a stock car, and
Yeah,
I ran fifth for most of the race against all mod cars.
that's awesome. How does I know that iRacing doesn't really have side by sides, but how does iRacing transfer into real life, if at all?
Well, I mean, yeah, it obviously transfers in some ways, right? Like, the racecraft part of it, like, making decisions and when to make them, and not making dumb decisions. That's obviously a big key. And I've noticed with what the driving style that the side by side takes, um, it's more like a Pro 2 or a rally car. So I've kind of had to, without you know being a choice of mine, I've had to dabble into that and run rallycross and Pro 2s, which I'm not very big of a fan of, but that's pretty much how our side by sides drive. So I didn't really have a choice, but uh, definitely helps a lot. I would say iRacing has done a lot for me driving wise.
Does it feel weird when you arguably are one of the fastest drivers in iRacing and you go into real life and obviously it's not exactly the same, but you know the lines and you know how to be fast. I mean, trials and tribulations have really shown to work for you. Do a lot of people like stare at you and go, "Holy cow, this kid is way faster than what he should be"?
I mean, there's been like, yeah, I would say I have eyes on me to some extent. People are watching, and I'd say I exceeded my expectations in real life, even, and on iRacing. But like you said, yeah, like the lines and everything on iRacing, it really helps me for real life, and memorizing the tracks and being able to do them all year long really does a big is a big key factor in my racing when summertime rolls around.
How far into the winter series, like winter time, do you end up racing? Like, do they run races all year round, or do they actually have a cutout point?
Well, last weekend in Georgia was our final race of the year. But we there is a race in Las Vegas coming up here. I'm not sure when. It's part of the Mint 400, which is a trophy truck race, but it's short course. They have a short course part of it, so a lot of the guys from Champ are gonna go run that and whatnot. So I mean, I wouldn't really say short course ever has like an off season. You can normally find somewhere to run kinda anytime, I would say. But
Yeah.
for us, I mean, our off season starts, now.
Do you have any
Uh,
like future goals? Because like a lot of Baja races are a huge thing all across the world. Do you have any goals being an off-road to ever go do one of these Baja races?
Honestly, yeah, I'd like to get the opportunity to, you know, drive or even ride in one of those races. I don't see myself ever pursuing that as a career instead of short course, but yeah, I would love to participate in one of those races in the future.
I feel like it's kind of like the Ultra Fours, you know, the ones that come to Crandon, and they go all over the world, like King of the Hammers and whatnot. But it's way more of a brutal sport, in my opinion, than just casual short course.
Yeah, you do have a point there. I mean, it can be treacherous for those guys. It's definitely not easy. Um, there's no way it's easy. Uh,
Yeah.
but but I mean, they they're just kind of there's a difference because we're racing side by side, wheel to wheel for our whole race, and they're kind of by themselves. So I mean, there's differences, there's ups, there's downs about both of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I am curious on one thing. You said that you run Sportsman, correct?
Yeah.
There's a
Yep.
lot of
Sportsman side by side.
yeah, there's a lot of classes for off-road or not off-road, but for side-by-sides in the off-road series. There's Sportsman, there's Pro Mod, there's Pro Stock. I mean, to be fair, what is the huge difference between like a Sportsman and a Pro Stock side by side?
So Sportsman and Pro Stock, we're obviously limited to performance modifications. Like we can't have stuff in our motor. We can't we can't touch that type of deal. We have to have the stock intake and stock exhaust and the stock front ends. Um, in Pro Stock, you can have modifications to the engine like cams or big bore, and you can also have an intake and an exhaust, which is people don't realize, but that is a big part in a little bit of a horsepower difference. Even if it's 5 to 10 horsepower, that can be a lot.
Well, when you're talking 5 to 10 horsepower on a vehicle that only weighs what, a little over 1,000 pounds, if that. I mean, it's not. I mean, 5 horsepower is a crazy add to that weight. But when
Yeah,
you're when
5 to 10 horsepower is a lot more than people would really think.
I mean, if you're talking a 4,000 pound pickup truck, when someone says, "Oh, I got 5 more horsepower from this cold air intake," like that means absolutely nothing. Your truck's still slow.
Right, right.
But on a side by side, I mean, when you're talking from factory, they only make at maximum 200 horsepower, and that's at the crank with some of them. That's not even at the wheel. 5 horsepower is a huge chunk to add to it.
Right, it's a lot of power. You can add a lot of power to one of these side by sides just by cams or big bore or even intake and exhaust.
So even exhaust is something that they don't want you changing in Sportsman as well. That seems kind of strange. I I
It,
I can't
it
exactly
it's
wrap my head around that one fully.
it's weird. It is very weird, but you have to have the stock exhaust from factory to run in Sportsman, and you cannot. Like we have an exhaust for set up for Pro Stock, and our car's tuned
Yeah.
for Sportsman, so we would obviously get it tuned to run that exhaust.
See,
So,
an exhaust
and there
just
is a horsepower difference
it's
when it comes to that exhaust.
it seems so weird though. I mean, obviously when you put on an exhaust for something, you have to tune it at least if you want it to run proper. But when you're sitting on the sidelines, for instance, in the crowd, and you see the Sportsman class roll out, they seem fairly loud. You wouldn't, as a spectator, you wouldn't expect that to just be a stock exhaust. I guess these machines get pretty rowdy, even with a factory setup.
So when you say loud, I'm sure it's the Yamaha that makes all the noise. It's those Yamahas are annoying. They're loud. Even straight out of the factory. That's just how they are. But I mean, there's so many of us. I mean, you can't really differentiate if it's different than
Yeah.
having an exhaust on it or if it doesn't.
Well, I'm sure it's quite loud inside of your own machine to the point where you're not listening to what other people sound like.
No, I mean the only thing I can hear when I'm in mine is the Yamahas and my father, or actually not my father anymore, but my spotter.
Fair enough, fair enough. And those helmets definitely don't help either. Have you seen any of these new Maverick Type R's racing yet? Is that something that
Yeah,
a lot of people are doing now?
I wouldn't say a lot. There's a few that's been in Champ, but the Mavericks are so big, it's not like a preferred car for short course, you know. But it can work. Like Kyle Chaney ran it, and he did pretty dang good with it. But a lot of people, there's a lot of people that have it for Ultra 4 and that type of deal.
I would think
That's
with the way that their control arms are set up, I mean, bump steering has to be a partial issue in losing time in these off-road races, hitting jumps and whatnot. Is that a major issue for you when you jump? Do you have a lot of bump steering issues?
uh I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say I really run into any issues when I'm jumping and bump steering and that type of stuff. I wouldn't say I run into any issues.
I guess to be fair, you're not exactly extremely heavy, so landing on your tires when they're slightly off, I'm sure you can just hang on and it'll go the direction that you're facing.
Right, I can counter steer it whenever I land wrong or, just land offset a little bit or have to jump something kind of while turning because there's a lot of those jumps.
All right, we're coming back here. A little bit of a issue that happened. Brody, I do want to ask you for your first ever time that you ever showed up to Crandon for the infamous land rush start. How did you process that? How did that go through your head? Sitting in a field that I'm sure was 20 plus cars wide or however they stack them up, just staring at turn one, knowing that you're about to have the ride of your life.
Well, I'd like to say that, I'd like to kind of say that it was I really knew what I was feeling, but honestly, I'd say it was the most nervous that I've ever been in my life. Showing up to Crandon, once I got on that racetrack and once we got lined up, and getting ready to go green for the first time in my life at Crandon, in front of 80, 90,000 people, when I look to my right and that's all I see, it was nerve-wracking. It was terrifying, and we took the green flag and it was game on, and all the nerves went away, and I was just along for the ride. It was crazy. It was a crazy experience.
Do you remember how your first race at Crandon went?
Yeah. Well, that was my first race racing nationally, so I mean it was quite the experience. It was tough. I can't remember, but I think I ran around 25th, which is obviously first race. I don't expect much. But yeah, it was definitely something.
So was your first race at Crandon like your first shot at off-road as a whole? Or
No,
where did you start at?
I had some testing and practicing, and I ran a smaller series before I came to Champ, which kind of got me prepared a little bit.
That's still got to be, I mean, the amount of preparation and practice that you do, I'm sure it just does not amount to the real thing. I feel like that
Doesn't.
adrenaline and the fear that runs through your body when you're staring down turn one with a bunch of cars to your left and to your right, I mean, all that training probably went right out the window.
It definitely did. I I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was just, trying to survive turn one.
Um, when you first started, how long was it before you encountered like your first actual accident?
um, well, uh, it was Lena. It was Dirt City. We I don't know. That's probably about 4 races into my champ career, so not very long in. Um, I started towards the back, and we are getting ready to go green, and obviously we go green over a tabletop jump, and that track is not wide. I don't know if you know or about Dirt City or
No, I don't know
whatnot,
much
but
about that track.
that's a bull ring for short course, and that is a very very tight track. So, um, we took the green, and they decided they were gonna go 3 wide, before the start finish line, and I think P5 pulled 3 wide up on third and fourth, and went into the K rail and rolled, and I went over the jump, and he was there, and that's where I landed. And so
Wow.
I
So
was just along for the ride after that.
so you didn't get
Um,
to experience any of them misfortunate events while you were in practice. It was kind of like a you were running good, and then bam, all of a sudden you're over.
yeah, I was getting ready to I was ready to race, man, and then I didn't even get to race.
That's got to be heartbreaking, especially right at the start of a race.
It was, and the fixing that car took that wreck messed that car up quite a bit.
So how many cars I guess have you gone through, or are you still on your original car from when you
I'm
started?
still on my original car. We've had to fix this or that, obviously. That's how off-road is. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still on my original car.
So I'm sure that you've collected a handful of sponsors now that you've been racing for a little bit. Do your sponsors push the envelope for you to advance to like the next class, or are they just kind of running alongside of you and you basically make all the calls? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want to push me and want to get me to move up. They want to see the results, the podiums, the wins. That's really what they're looking for. I mean, I wouldn't say, because I already run on live TV and this or that, so they get the exposure that they need.
Yeah,
They want to see the finishes, and they want to see the podiums. They want to hear their name. Um, so I would say I don't think they're pushing that hard for me to move up a class. They just want to see results.
of course. And I definitely think that's a huge thing that every sponsor obviously wants to see. I mean, they're not throwing money at someone just for them to finish last place every weekend.
Right.
I I definitely would like to see you moving up the ranks. I mean, side by side is a great place to be. It opens the door for a lot of new competitors. I mean, once they introduce side by sides to the Champ-Offroad series, you were talking a weekend that probably had 40, 50, 60 drivers, and now you're talking well over 100 drivers coming for a weekend at Champ-Offroad. I mean, it's great to see that it brings in a lot more people, but I mean, the big trucks is where the show is.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, everybody wants to see those trucks, but some of the best racing this season came from side by sides. So
It's
I mean,
definitely not hard to
it's
believe.
it's a give or take. People that watch this and follow Champ, they like to see the side by sides, and they don't just want to see trucks. Like,
It's definitely
um,
something that I've became a lot more interested in. Like when I would go to Crandon over a weekend, I'd watch the uh, pro stock trucks, the super stock trucks. Um, but every time the buggies, like 1600 lights or the super buggies would come out, I would walk away and I'd go find something else to do, walk into the pits. And when they first introduced side by sides to the Champ Off Road series, I would do the same thing. I would just walk away, and now I actually stick and watch the side by sides, which feels weird for me to say because at first it just never really caught my interest.
Right, and that makes sense. I mean, you don't really know what to expect when it first comes out, right? So, I mean, but now over time, people know what it's about, and they know how the racing is, and they know how good the racing is, and um, what it takes. Side by sides have gotten, I'd say, very popular in the champ scene and the off-road scene.
I definitely think that's a huge reason on why a lot of these dealers like Yamaha and Can-Am and Polaris and Honda and everyone's trying to make the next best thing because all of these companies are embedded in racing. I mean, Honda was embedded in four-wheeler racing in the early 2000s. Yamaha is still invested into them now to the point where that's pretty much all that you see them race in ATV racing. And obviously dirt bikes and whatnot. And now side by sides has become this new next best thing, and everyone's competing for the fastest, highest quality machine. I guess that's a huge argument that a lot of people are having too. Like you said earlier, you're not exactly the craziest fan over Yamaha. Why is that? Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, obviously I race a Polaris, so I'm gonna be a little bit biased,
It's
but
not the
I would
sponsors
say
telling you to do that, is it?
no, nope, absolutely not. But I would say reason I'm really not a fan of Polaris or of Yamaha is they have not had a new side by side for a while now. Their newest model is 16, I believe. Um, and they just focus so much on dirt bikes and ATVs. They don't they don't really care about short course anymore. So a lot of people are starting to lean away from Yamaha, and you'll see that a lot next year.
Well, do you mean
Um,
like newest model is in like the YXZ just hasn't changed? Because obviously they make 2024s and I'm
yeah,
sure they're rolling out with their 2025. It's just everything's been the exact same since
yep,
2016.
it's been the exact same with minor tweaks, and they don't really push to get better for racing.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. I mean, I haven't really noticed any major changes with them. I have noticed a lot, obviously, with Can-Am. I mean, Can-Am originally had their Mavericks, and then they switched over to their X3s, and now they got their Maverick Rs, which are crazy looking machines, and Polaris did it too. I mean, if you look at their Razor from 5 years ago, it's a completely different animal. Why?
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Can-Am and Polaris, they really want to see their racing step up the game, and they want to see their racing succeed, and they're pushing it really hard to get better and better every year, and it's working. It's getting a lot. It's they've they've gotten a lot of exposure and um just I mean they've upgraded so much in the past few years,
Yeah.
and every single year it's so much better.
What was a really weird one to see was I think it's Articat. They're shoving their foot in the door now too with a lineup of side by sides. And I might be wrong. I might be talking about Kawasaki here, but I mean they run at the front of the pack. I mean, seeing a company like that that just had almost no interest in the racing scene, at least not in side by sides, I should say, or four wheelers, just come out of nowhere and dominate some of these classes. That was definitely a weird one to see unfold.
Right. Yeah, it's Artie Cat. They've done well. I mean, they've done well in Sportsman. They still do decent. There's not too many of them, but the ones that do run, I mean, they've been in the front before. Like you look at Lucas Hool, he did very well in a Artie Cat. What was it? Last season? Not, yeah, last
Yeah,
season.
last season.
He was in the front. I mean, the Artie Cats definitely are not slouches, and If you put a driver in one of those cars, if you put a good experienced driver, they're gonna do good.
Yeah,
It's not a bad car at all.
it definitely was crazy for me to see it firsthand, to see how fast these cars. I mean, like I said, they were nowhere to be seen, and then all of a sudden they were almost pretty much the top of their game. And that's a wild show up, especially for a company that has nowhere to be seen in a sport like this.
Right, it's definitely wild. It's odd, but yeah, I mean, here they are. If they keep pushing to get better and better, I do not see them, you know, failing at all. I see them being just as good as Polaris or Can-Am in the future.
How long are you planning? Like, if you look at your roadmap for the upcoming 5 to 10 years, how long are you planning on sticking with side by sides before you end up switching to something different? And if you plan on sticking with side by sides for a long time before you switch, are you ever planning on switching the brand that you go with? Because I've seen like a lot of big racers like CJ Greaves, for instance. He was in a Yamaha for a while, and then it seemed like he switched over to Polaris, I think 3 years ago. Do you have any plans on
Uh,
switching anytime soon?
no, I would say I don't see myself switching from a Polaris to something different. But and as far as the future, I don't really know what's to come. I mean, we go year by year. The opportunities, you know, if I get an opportunity, we look at that, and every year we just regroup and start over. And so we're just gonna keep grinding and grinding at what we have, and just gonna keep getting better and better, and get my name out there and keep doing what we love.
Have you have you learned any like secrets or anything that I guess you could say the general public doesn't really know about racing that would kind of be like a huge eye opener to a lot of people that aren't like fully invested into a sport like this? Is there anything that you can go out telling people?
It is very expensive. um,
I think a lot of people know that one.
it. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. It's hard to say if there's secrets or if there's not. I mean, I don't really know. I don't know.
I'm sure the sponsors definitely make the sport affordable, but even with sponsors, I mean, it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of money to be made in racing as a whole anymore. I've heard a lot of things about like NASCAR teams that are facing bankruptcy. Do you think there's any way in the future that that could possibly change? Like, how can they bring more money to the sport to get way more people willing to invest into it or be interested in general?
Um, well, that's hard to say, but yeah, you're right about. I mean, there's not much money in it. It's tough for everybody. But I would say if they just gotta keep grinding at what they have, they need to keep you need to keep trying to get sponsors and for for the series, and you gotta try to raise money so you can give it out so drivers can make money, and once the money is there, you get then you get people, and
Yeah,
that's what people are looking for. So
yeah.
I don't know because I don't run a series, but I would say you're gonna get a lot more people if you somehow get money in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that is a very hard subject to get onto, especially with someone that is just a driver, I guess you can say. And that's that's no offense to you, but I'm sure there's a lot of the inside things that you don't get to hear about and that you can't exactly develop on because it's just information that's not given to you. I
Yeah.
I do have a question that I asked Brent, that I want to ask you because as someone that does race, I feel like this is a fear for everyone at this point. Is electric vehicles. Do you think that's going to become a huge thing? I mean, seeing it show up in Formula One cars. Now they have the Formula E races and even dirt bikes. They have the Starkvarg dirt bikes, and they're making racing series out of these electric vehicles. I mean, do you see that coming to short course off road?
I really hope not. I don't see it anytime soon. I don't see that being a problem, but I really hope not. You know, if it is scary to see that that's what it's kind of coming to, but um we got to keep racing, you know.
Yeah.
I I hope to not see electric
I feel like I
coming
could
from.
see it coming, at least as like a demo thing, because with short course off road, you're not racing for long periods of time, so a battery probably could make it through the entire race. But I think one of the huge issues that you lay into there, even with Formula E and dirt bikes, is the crashes that happen. I mean, when you puncture one of these batteries, they go up in flames, and I cannot see how that would be safe, especially for someone that's strapped into one of these trucks and it ends up upside down. Like if that battery goes up, you're gonna have a mess of problems really quick.
Yeah, it is dangerous. Obviously, racing in general is dangerous, but
Yeah.
um, you never really know until they decide that they're gonna do it. So hopefully they don't, and hopefully you just stick with what we got.
I know that they're developing a little bit into like that area or realm, I guess you could say, because before before we lost Kyle LeDuc, bless his heart, he was he got the opportunity to drive one of these electric off-road vehicles, and he said that they were fun, they're fast, but I mean they just probably wouldn't draw a crowd like these internal combustion motors do. I mean, they're not loud at all. So
Nothing
grabbing the
would ever
attention,
compare.
yeah,
Nothing would ever compare to what we have now.
no. I find that very hard to compete with, especially standing on turn one, hearing these 900 horsepower Toyota motors revving up to 10,000 RPMs right off of the line. I mean, that is a
Right.
crazy experience to be a part of.
And nobody wants to get their ears blasted off of from screaming of a battery powered car,
That is so
which
true.
really hope to not have to worry about that.
Well, Brody, I do want to talk a little bit more about your iRacing career, because obviously this is what we're doing here. Um, how how long ago did you even start in iRacing?
I've been in iRacing for, I think it was a year today. This'll be a year. Um and
Wow.
I never really actually started trying to get better and better until probably 3 months ago, and it just clicked, and now here we
Wow.
are.
That is honestly, even to me, that is impressive, because you arguably are the fastest off-road driver, or dirt road driver, I should say, in iRacing terms, in all of iRacing. And to hear that you started actually chasing that time only 3 months ago, how is that for you? I mean, you basically came out of nowhere, and now you're at the top of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird to think about. Obviously, there is, guys like Connor Berry and Thad who are obviously above, but yeah, it's it's weird to think about that only 3 months ago I did not know what I was doing, and now I'm here battling with the best and, you know, succeeding in what we do on iRacing.
Does that put a huge target on your back when you end up in these public lobbies, or do a lot of people just try to wreck your like I rating or your safety rating just
Yeah,
because of
I
how
mean,
fast you are?
there's people like that, they don't like the people who are good at iRacing, and so you have a somewhat of a target on you. Um, But I mean, I wouldn't say I notice it too much. A lot of people run me clean. I've noticed it a few times, but I wouldn't say it's really a big issue.
I ran out of fuel. Oh well, that happens. Um,
It happens.
what kind of sim rig do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, well, I got it for Christmas last year, so I don't really know what it is. It's literally a racing chair on it's mounted on something, and um, a monitor stand in front of me, and my wheel stand, and then I have a desk for my PC right next to me.
So not only did you somehow manage to make it to the top of the game, but you don't even really know what you're racing with.
I have no idea.
That is
I'll
that
be
is
honest.
unbelievable.
I know what it looks like, but I can somewhat explain what it is, but I do not know what it is.
That is awesome. How is it for you to actually run into some of these real drivers that you actually race with in real life on iRacing? Is it kind of like a deja vu kind of moment? Like, wait a minute, I know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously cool to see the people that I know and the people that I race with in real life, and um, obviously, like the competitive side in me wants to beat them. If you want to show that, you can beat them. Uh, yeah, it's really cool to see whenever I can race with somebody that I know, and I, yeah, I would say I love seeing the people that I race with in real life on the sim.
I definitely think that's a huge reason why a lot more people should get into iRacing. Like, if racing is a sport that you very much, whoa, Brody, what are you doing over there?
I wrecked. It happens.
If racing is a sport that you're very interested in and just can't afford to actually get into it, iRacing is expensive, but you're going to run into a lot of these real drivers. Obviously, like Brody here, he races side by sides in real life and he's on the sim. There's a lot of people. There's Brent Smith, there's Connor Berry. It's an endless list of drivers that during their off season they want to sit here and race in a video game. It
Right.
it definitely is expensive though. This isn't a extremely cheap hobby to get into. I mean, a typical setup is roughly around $2,000 for computer, wheels, monitors, everything else that you're gonna need. But it's definitely a
I
lot
would say it's
cheaper than
worth
a
it.
$40,000 truck.
Right. I would definitely say that iRacing is worth it. But yeah, nothing in racing is cheap, obviously.
So
Too bad.
do you think you having that experience in real life and racing since you were a young kid and knowing lines that you need to take and kind of how to set up everything helped you develop your skills a lot faster in iRacing? Or do you think it's just kind of luck of the draw, you just learned it?
I mean, yeah, I would say that me knowing what's going on, like real life, I would say really, really helped me catch on quicker. Uh, it- Real life is a big thing for how good you are in iRacing, and it makes it easier if you have that real life experience.
I did hear some rumors from the grapevine that iRacing is talking about doing another update for Dirt Road soon. Do you or anyone else that's in your community of drivers have any insight onto what may be going on behind the scenes with iRacing?
Well, they have Lucas Oil, Wheatland scanned. They've had it scanned for God knows how long. They haven't put it out. Sad, but um, yeah, there's rumors going around that they're supposed to be doing an update and giving us content. It just doesn't happen, and I don't know what to expect. If it's gonna come out soon, if it's not, it's kind of all up in the air. who knows?
Are we supposed to be getting only one track, or is there anything else, I guess, more that you know, or do you know if we're going to be getting any new vehicles? I'm sure side-by-sides is a big one that a lot of people, including you, wants to see in iRacing.
Yeah, I've heard stuff about side by sides, and other than Wheatland, I don't really know that they have anything else scanned. So, um, if we get anything right now, it'd probably be Wheatland, and possibly a side by side, but I don't see really that being in the very near future, sadly.
It definitely would be cool. I feel like maybe not everyone wants to hear just about everything iRacing. I'm sure a lot of people would like to get to know you a lot more. I'm kind of curious if you want to go on and develop kind of on what else you do other than racing, or how much actually of your time goes into racing. I'm sure a lot of people would be interested to hear what else you have going on in your life.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd say I dedicate a lot of my time to racing. But, but I mean, other than racing, I don't do too much outside of school, and I have a job in winter.
What do you
I
do in
work
the
at just
wintertime?
just a grocery store, but
Oh, okay.
money's money.
Yeah.
And it all helps. So, but other than racing and iRacing and school, I like to ski in the winter, which I have a season pass to the ski hill that we have near us. So I do that just as a hobby, and
Just skiing, or
yeah,
do you do a little snowboarding too?
I know how to snowboard. I'm not bad at it. I fall down a lot, but
So not
I can
great
ski
either.
pretty well. I can ski pretty well, but snowboarding I'm decent at. I guess I could say.
Yeah, I don't really mess around with the snow a whole lot, so I can't do either. I know a little bit
I
about
love the snow.
snowmobiles though, so there's that.
Yeah, I actually used to race snowmobiles.
Really?
So yep, I in Eagle River, the oval on the ice oval I used to race.
Did you do just oval, or did you get into more of like the snowcross kind of thing?
I've never done snowcross. I've always only done the ice oval stuff.
I definitely think that would be a cool sport to get into, but I hear I hear that's quite brutal.
Yeah, very, very brutal.
I'm sure falling off a sled though on an oval course that's basically just ice definitely doesn't feel good either.
No, not at all. I would say that snowmobile racing on the ice is very dangerous. People get hurt all the time doing it. It's not very. I mean, obviously it's safe, but you know, accidents happen, and it's a very dangerous sport.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't even imagine doing it, let alone the pain that you'd go through to fall off or even get hit by someone else. I'm sure it's I'm sure it's definitely not very pleasant when you end up upside down in a side by side either, even with all this
It's not.
equipment.
Yeah, it's definitely not. Um, it's not. It's you know, you don't want to be on your lid. It's not fun.
Definitely wouldn't be fun. We're gonna take a quick break here. We're gonna end up switching tracks, or just ending up at a different place other than Crandon. We're gonna try to take Brody out of his element a little bit and put him in a vehicle that he's not too familiar with.
Sounds good.
Let's reel back into things here. Um, Jesus Christ, Brody. Um,
I don't know whether you.
Now with us rolling into winter time, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I remember there was one year when they brought a handful of Pro 4s up into like a ski resort. I think CJ Greaves was one of them, and Bryce Menzies was another one, so on and so forth. And they ended up racing in the snow on this ski resort. Was that like a one off thing that you know of, or is that kind of like part of some random series, or
Yeah, that was part of Red Bull's skiing, part of the, what is it? The X Games.
Oh, so
So it was just a, but yeah, it was a one-off thing. It wasn't like a series that they ran. They did it one time and they never did it again. I don't know.
that definitely would have been a cool thing to have a part of like a actual series. Like if they packed down Crandon during the winter and they let a bunch of vehicles go loose there. I'm sure it's not exactly safe, but it'd be one hell of a show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to see, but wouldn't be all that uh safe or ideal.
I mean, you get to take your side by side home with you, correct?
Yeah,
I mean, how often do you go out and mess around in the snow during the winter months with your side by side?
0.
Really? Not at all.
No, nope. It's specifically for race weekends. I don't mess around with anything other than racing with that car.
I know that there is a lot of drivers that run side by sides, for instance, that they'll trail ride over the weekends in their side by sides, but I also know that there's other guys that'll mess around with their trucks. I mean, Andrew Carlson is one of them that brought his truck over to the Seaboys compound, and he ended up running around on their little track that they had there. But I wasn't sure if you messed around very much with yours.
Yeah, no, we don't really mess around with anything other than short course.
I see. Um, do you ever find yourself doing like out of the blue hobbies? Like, are you a big fisherman at all?
Not really at all. I would say no. I'm not. I don't go fishing. I don't hunt and that type of stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm a pretty boring person,
I
I'd
wouldn't
say.
fully say that. I mean, you're pretty entertaining. I definitely.
Sometimes.
I mean, that's one of the huge reasons why I wanted to come out here and talk with you. I mean, from the handful of conversations I have had with you, even though that I couldn't really ask you a whole lot of questions due to me wanting to do a podcast with you. I mean, you definitely seem to be quite the interesting person.
I mean, yeah, I guess I get that sometimes.
Do you make a with how do I want to word this? With you being so invested into racing, do you make a lot of actual friends, not like acquaintances with other drivers, or is it kind of like a mind your own situation? You do you, I'll do me, and we go our separate ways.
No, I'm kind of my own person, alright? I don't really try to make friends. I have the friends that I have and friends from racing. Like one of my best friends is from racing, so I would say no, I don't go out and just make friends. I kind of keep to my own, I guess you could say.
I definitely think that that might have to do with how many people there are, but also the fact that I'm sure you don't have a whole lot of time where you get to walk around and actually talk. Like when it's race weekend, you're there to focus, you're there to, make things happen. You're not there to
Right,
make friends with everyone else.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not there to really make friends, and I mean, I'm there to race, and outside of racing, I don't really go out and try to make friends either. It's kind of just a, if it happens, it happens. I'm not worried about it.
Hey, you cut out in front of me.
Didn't try to, my bad.
Honestly, do you, outside of racing, do you really actually even get time to do anything? Because I'm sure when you come back after a long weekend, you're probably checking out what's wrong with your car, fixing things, cleaning it, trying to figure out ways to improve. I mean, how soon do you get back to the drawing board, and how long do you end up sitting on it when you come back from a race weekend?
Well, yeah, after race weekend, I'm always, you want to see if there's anything wrong with the car, you want to fix it if there is. I don't really have time outside of that to really do things. I mean, through the winter I do, obviously. Um, but I'm so focused during race season on making myself better, like on the racetrack and making my car better, that I really don't find time and want to do different things or activities.
Well, I'm sure the handful of times that you actually do have some free time, you're in a situation like now where your relax is get right back into racing. And if you can't do it in real life, you can at least do it online.
Pretty much, I'm very invested in iRacing, and when I relax, this is where I am.
um, I noticed that you guys also have a team as well. Who ended up making that team, and how did that end up coming to be what it is today?
Yeah, that's my team. That's my short course team for iRacing. It was me and Adam McAfee. Kind of just made it together, and we recruited some people, and now we're all racing together. We have a logo, everything, and we're all just friends, and we race and we do racing together and everything.
I mean, how long ago did you guys end up making this team, and do you know how many members are a part of your actual off-road team as of now?
I think there's about 10 of us, I want to say, and this team's only about 2 months old.
Really?
Yeah, no, this is not an old team.
I mean, you
Very, very new, and I obviously didn't get deep into off-road on iRacing, get good at it until a few months ago.
you definitely had a lot of good contacts, though. I mean, looking at your team, you have a lot of top top runners in there that are extremely quick on the track. Um, do you guys do a lot of, I guess you can say, teamwork kind of things, or is it more or less you guys just go your own route and you come together for like a league race, or for instance the short course off-road series that they do here on iRacing?
We like to practice a lot. Because yeah, we have that series that we all run together. So we'll practice and we do a lot of official races together, and we have fun and do hosteds and everything whatnot. Yeah, we do a lot together. We're not so much on our own. We kind of just all have fun together and race together and get better and learn all together.
I know with a lot of these teams that people make, a lot of them know each other in real life, and I'm pretty sure Adam and Thad are all in the same area as both me and you, if I'm correct. Do you know any of these people in real life that you actually have on your racing team?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually like Thad's only about an hour from me. Um, I don't know him in real life, but uh, Adam and Brandon, they live in they're only about an hour and a half away from me, so obviously they go to off-road, they go to all the champ races and everything, so I'll be able to meet them. And Jeb Boodle, he's one of my best friends in real life. He's on the team. Um, and yeah, I mean us five, I guess you could say, are all, I guess you could call real life friends.
I definitely know that it's different for each and every person, but I mean, when you make such a huge appearance in online, for instance, like you're all over iRacing, you're all over like Discord, a lot of people know who you are, but they have somewhere that they can pinpoint and like find you. Do you have a lot of moments in real life where someone will just casually walk up to you and they like, oh, I know who you are. Do you get extremely weirded out by that and basically just tell them to go away, or how does that go through your mind when some random person that you don't know or that you've never met but you know who they are just shows up to you and acts like they're your friend in real life?
Uh, I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird sometimes, but I don't really think anything of it. I kind of just like, oh, okay, so I think about it as they've seen me race before, so I don't get weirded out. I guess it's kind of just like, oh, that's cool that you know who I am, like, and
Just go away. I got other things to do.
I would not say I don't tell people to go away when they're talking to me. I'll talk to them. But yeah, I think that it's cool if somebody knows who I am. Uh, I yeah.
I feel like that'd just be a really uncomfortable situation. Like, I know that a lot of actual famous people, I mean, their life is plastered all over social media if they're movie stars, this or that. And there's a lot of people that study this person, and some of them do get weirded out when someone walks up to them and they know everything about them. But I know in a situation like what you're in, where in the Champ-Offroad series, anyone in the crowd can walk up to your stall. I'm sure you encounter a lot of people that come up to you in the first place, but I feel like if someone knew way too much about me that isn't just casual information that they just found out from talking to me, like for instance, someone like Thad, I'm just putting this out there, like you and Thad have talked a lot online. You know what he looks like. But if you
Yeah.
didn't know what he looked like and who came up and talked to you and they started rambling off all this information, I definitely think I'd be a little scared and tell them to go the hell away.
I mean, yeah, it is a little bit weird, but I agree with you on that one. If I don't really like if they're talking personal information, like, yeah,
They
go away from me.
they show up, they start rambling off your credit card number.
I mean, I'd hope not, but it's 2024. It happens, I guess.
Have you noticed a lot bigger of an influx of people that are just fans wise that have been coming up and talking to you now that you're starting to become a way faster driver in real life now too? Like you're you got first place in your race on Saturday, and I mean that's got to put your name out there obviously. Have you
Yeah,
noticed a lot more people that come up and talk to you since then?
I mean, obviously, I haven't been around too many people since Georgia. But
Yeah,
yeah, when you win somewhere, definitely gets people to it gets people's attention, and it's good attention that I'm focusing on getting and trying to get, uh, so I can get my name out there. Um, and throughout Champ and everything, yeah, there's people that'll come up to me and they know who I am and they'll come talk to me, and I think that's pretty cool. Like if you pay attention and you're a fan and you watch me race and you want me to do it, I think that's pretty cool to see, and um I just I pray that I can just keep getting better and better and keep getting my name out there more and more and keep succeeding
that was one
in
of
my
the
racing career.
that was one of the big things with me when I first started iRacing. I started late 2019, and I think around 2020, maybe it was still 2019, I remember meeting Connor Berry. The only reason why I remember is because eventually he ended up getting into Champ-Offroad. And one of the big things that I wanted to do was I wanted to go to Crandon to watch him race because I knew who he was through iRacing. And it kind of sounds weird, but actually getting to talk to these people and meet these people and then find out they're actual racers. I mean, there's a slight bit more of a connection there, especially if you know who it is that is driving this vehicle. And like
Yeah,
I'd
I mean it's pretty cool, I would say.
I'd look at someone like Keegan Kincaid, for instance. I don't know who he is. I haven't sat and talked to him, so when I see him driving on the track, I'm like, oh, it's just another driver. But when I can see someone like Connor Berry or Jeb Boodle or you, it's one of those things where, like, holy shit, I know who this is. I want him to win.
Right. Yeah, I totally get that.
I think my truck's a little messed up. I might have
Man,
hit a
these Pro
wall.
2s here, they are,
These are
you know,
difficult. These are not an
I
easy vehicle to drive.
I mean, this is not ideal.
Maybe we should have picked something just a little bit different, but I don't know if maybe we should have done like NASCARs.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not with a group in these trucks, these are just painful to drive.
I can't imagine how this would be solo, but at the same time, I couldn't see anyone doing a practice session in one of these because, well, they don't race them in official.
Right. This is just weird.
So I guess what's your huge plan on walking into the 2025 season for next year? What's
We're
your
gonna win it. We're gonna win the points.
you're gonna be at the
Hopefully.
top of the points?
Hopefully, we're gonna try. That's the goal.
So I guess one thing that a lot of people don't understand is how much do the sponsors actually look at your podiums compared to how you stand on a points board? I mean, do
Um,
they go off of the points strictly? Do they go off of podium strictly, or do they kind of just put both in a thought and go from there?
I would say both. It's a lot of both. They don't really pay attention to the points. Well, I mean, they do, and they don't really over pay attention to the podiums. They want to see both, and um, like I said before, they just want to see you succeed. And so when you see me doing good, it's just another bonus on their end.
Well,
Um,
obviously,
I
anyone can win a race, and everyone's gonna lose a race at some point. But it takes some of the best to be at the top of a points board. So I would figure they
right.
would go off of that more than anything.
I mean, they definitely focus on it, but you're gonna see a lot of both of it, both podiums and uh yeah,
That's a wall.
points. Don't worry, I've been beating on the wall this whole time.
Yeah, I think we pushed the cushion up just a little bit too far, and now it's kind
That'll
of
be all right.
it's gonna make this next where are we at probably 30 minutes very miserable unless we start running this
That's
low side.
uh,
Um, I guess you did say that. Oh my God, you did say that you want to move up through the classes. What ideally would be your next vehicle that you would get into?
um, let's see. I don't really know. Uh, I would hope to get in a truck, but um, moving up in the side by side ranks is something that I would really like to do, and hopefully sooner than later we can do that.
I think side by side, as cool as it is to have a huge field, you have a lot of sponsors looking at a lot of drivers. So I'm sure it's very difficult for them to decide who they want to push through the ranks. But
Right.
I'm assuming the next like big shot for you would either be something like a super buggy or maybe pro light, just to keep you kind of in the same general area. I heard that pro lights aren't exactly the funnest thing to drive because they land a little hard, but I'm
A little
sure
bit rough.
side by sides are quite hard to land in as well.
They definitely do hurt sometimes, and but they're so much fun. But yeah, the pro lights are I've heard that they're very rough.
Have you gotten any seat time in anything else other than a side by side? Is there anyone that's given you the opportunity to try something different?
Not in short course. I have not. Hoping to some point.
I mean, that would,
be able to just drive something else.
I mean, even if it's not something that you're gonna full-time race, just, something that someone's like, hey, you wanna give this a whack? Definitely think that
Yeah,
would be fun.
definitely, but stuff's so expensive nowadays that people don't do that. But
Yeah, that's what the sponsors are for.
pretty much.
Throw me in a different vehicle. I don't want this thing anymore.
I hate this thing. Get it out of here. I hate this thing.
No, it is definitely cool though that you actually get to have your foot in the door with such a, I guess, eye opener sport. I mean, short course off
Right.
road a couple years ago was minimal compared to what it is today. And so
Right.
many more people, so many more drivers.
Yeah, short course has definitely gotten bigger and bigger. You know, uh, it's starting to be a very, very popular thing, and it's really good to see. It's really cool to see that um it it expands so much in the past few years. It's crazy.
It's definitely cool for me, especially, I started going to Crandon when I was like 12 years old, and you could still see grass on the hills. And now you show up on a Saturday during the spring and you can't even see the ground anymore.
Right.
I mean,
It's very crazy.
it has doubled in size within the last
Yeah.
year, or not last year, the last couple of years.
Yep. It definitely has.
Where'd you run away to, Brody? You end up.
Forgot to figure out I have to try to drive the sprint car around this place.
Oh, you ended up hopping in your league race.
Yeah, I decided, that Pro 2 was useless.
Not it for
Thing is
you.
that thing is not it, man. That thing's painful to drive around that place.
Yeah, this thing. I definitely don't think it was exactly the brightest idea, but hey, we gave it a little bit of a shot.
I don't
No,
know
I mean,
about
if
this.
if you wanna end up getting into your league race and end up talking with everyone else that you're racing with, we can wrap things up if you'd like.
All up to you. I mean, it's all up to you if you want to keep talking, if you want to end it. It's up to you.
Hey, I could probably end up maybe, I don't know if I can end up watching you in your league race. Um,
Might be able to.
what's the name of your league? I'll end up popping in here and trying to get some conversation going on. The DOB? No,
It's
no,
aces up.
it's 410s.
Do you have did you friend me on iRacing?
No, I don't think I own the track that you guys are running on.
Lincoln?
Yeah, I don't have that.
Oh, darn.
I think that one's yours.
Shoot.
But either way, I don't think I'd be able to spectate because I don't have that track. So
Probably not, just because it's
I don't
one of
think
those
that one would
leagues.
work out for me.
Yeah, fortunately.
That's all right. It happens. I mean, it's ultimately up to you. I mean, if you wanna wrap things up, I'm more than willing to. We can. I mean, I'm sure that I'll end up pulling you on here again at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all good with that. Find some more stuff to talk about in the future. It's kind of tough. There's
Well, it doesn't
um
it doesn't help that I came into this running on a very tight schedule, so it makes it
yeah,
difficult for me
yeah,
to actually brainstorm, especially when I have so much other things like going on mentally and everything else. I definitely
right. I get that.
I definitely could have planned this out a lot better, but it was
It
it's
happens.
still really nice to be able to get to sit here and talk with you and kind of hear your side on things and learn a little bit more about you and who you are and where people can find you and what vehicles you race in and everything across the whole spectrum. I'm sure I'm sure it's going to draw a lot more people to you as a racer on top of wanting to meet you through iRacing as well and get the world to know who you are, you know.
Right, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, and in the future, I'm definitely down to do it again.
Yeah, no, Brody, I very much do appreciate you coming on here.